Hey there and welcome. Have you ever stopped to wonder how your work computer just knows who you are? Or how you can find that one specific printer on the other side of the building with just a couple of clicks? Well, the answer is this powerful, almost invisible system that works kind of like your company's own digital librarian. And today, we're going to pull back the curtain and demystify Active Directory.
So let's just frame the problem here for a second. Picture a huge company. We're talking about thousands of employees, thousands of computers, a ton of printers, shared files. You get the picture. How in the world do you keep track of all that without it just descending into total, absolute chaos?
Because honestly, without some kind of central map or catalog, that's exactly what you get: digital chaos. It would be a nightmare for you just trying to find anything, and an even bigger nightmare for the IT folks trying to keep it all secure. You'd have no idea who should have access to what, or if the thing you're connecting to is even the real deal.
And this is where our hero of the day comes in. The elegant solution to all of this chaos is Active Directory. And I really want you to stick with this idea of it being a super efficient, all-knowing digital librarian for your entire network.
So, what is it, really? Well, at its core, Active Directory, or AD as you'll hear it called, is a directory service. Just think of it like one giant trusted database that holds info on every single object on the network. We're talking users, computers, printers, you name it. It is the single source of truth that brings order to all that potential chaos.
So how does our digital librarian actually do its job? Well, you can boil it down to two primary functions. The first, and maybe the most obvious one, is helping you find things. Let's call this the search function.
And the search function is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's the process where your computer, or an app you're using, can basically walk up to our librarian and ask a question. Something like, hey, where's the color printer on the third floor? Or what's the email for Sarah in accounting? It's the asking part of the equation.
So how does that question get asked in the digital world? Well, there are three main players here. First, you've got your application, the thing that needs the info. It uses a special language called LDAP, which you can think of as the official formal language for talking to directories. It makes sure the question is understood perfectly. And that question is aimed at the Active Directory database, the master catalog where all the answers are stored.
Right, but that begs the question, how does the librarian know where everything is to begin with? And that brings us to AD's second core job, publication. This is all about how services and resources announce themselves and get themselves put into the catalog in the first place. Service publication is kind of like a new printer or a new piece of software raising its hand and saying, "Excuse me, Mr. Librarian, I'm new here. I'm a high-speed scanner. You can find me at this network address, and here's a list of all the cool things I can do." It publishes its details so that everyone else can find it later when they need it.
So what does that look like? Well, the service itself creates a sort of advertisement in Active Directory called a connection point object. But the really critical piece here is the service principal name, or SPN. You should think of this as a unique, one-of-a-kind, non-forgeable digital ID card for that service. This is so important for security, which, by the way, is exactly why these SPNs can become targets for hackers who want to pretend they're a legitimate service. So as you can probably see now, search and publication are really just two sides of the very same coin. One is for asking, the other is for telling. A user searches for a printer that has already published that it exists. An application looks for a data service that has already advertised what it can do. And together, they create this dynamic, self-updating map of your entire network. It's pretty cool.
Okay, so we can find things, and things can announce themselves. That's great. But how do we know we can actually trust them? Let's walk through a quick real-world example to see how AD creates what's basically a secure handshake between you and a service you want to use. All right, here's how that trust gets built, in 4 simple steps. First, your app says, "I want to use that service." But, and this is key, instead of connecting directly, it turns to Active Directory's security guard, the Key Distribution Center, or KDC. Think of the KDC as a digital passport office. It is the ultimate authority on identity. The KDC checks that service's unique ID card, its SPN. If it all checks out, the KDC issues a special ticket, giving the green light. And only then, once everyone is verified, is a secure connection actually made. This whole process is what stops you from accidentally connecting to a fake, malicious service. So you might be thinking, okay, that's a lot of steps. Why do we go through all this trouble? Why is this digital librarian so foundational to how modern IT works? Well, let's just wrap up by summarizing the huge value that Active Directory really provides.
The benefits really boil down to three massive things. First, efficiency. No more hunting around for printers or servers, everything is findable in an instant. Second, security. That whole authentication dance we just talked about protects you from the bad guys. And finally, scalability. This system works just as beautifully for a company of 10 as it does for 100,000, bringing order and management to even the most mind-bogglingly huge networks. In the end, it all comes back to a very simple but incredibly powerful idea. And you don't have to just take my word for it. Microsoft itself puts it perfectly. The whole system is built so that people and programs can easily search for and publish useful information. That's it. That's the core idea that makes a secure, manageable network possible. Now, Active Directory has been the absolute bedrock of corporate networks for decades. But our world is changing, right? Our offices are becoming less physical and more virtual. We have services running in the cloud, managed by things like Azure AD, and people are working from literally anywhere. And all of that leaves us with a really fascinating question to ponder. What does the future of the digital librarian even look like in a world that doesn't really have a library anymore? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.